Hello and welcome to day 3. Today we're going to be going over the most common sequence in yoga, and that's the sun salutation. So there are different variations of the sun salutation. Today we are going to be doing the most common, which is a sun salutation A. So we will start slow and then work up to it. So let's begin, and I'll see you on the mat. Okay, so just remember, you don't need a yoga mat to practice. You can just do this anywhere in your home. But to start with, if you have a mat, you're going to come stand at the top of your mat or just stand in a space. Feet hips distance apart. Slight bend of the knees. Now, when I say slight bend here, what I'm saying is we don't want the knees to be locking out. So if you're unsure what that means, if you try to push your kneecaps to the back, that's locking your knees out. You can feel the pressure in your bones when you do that, whereas if you slightly loosen the kneecaps, you can kind of feel that release and it goes slightly into the muscles. That's the position that we want for the knees. Roll the shoulders back, stand nice and tall, and we will begin. So again, there are a few different variations of this one. I'm gonna do what I always do and you can follow along. So we're gonna inhale, sweep the hands out and around, bring them up above your head. Take an exhale here, big inhale. Hands come together. As you exhale, fold forward with length in the spine. So you're coming forward with your back as straight as you can. And then when you can get no further, that's when you bend the knees even more, release the upper back and roll downwards. So notice here, my knees are quite bent. You're relaxing the whole of the upper body. Hands can dangle down in front of you. Release the neck. So you're looking back towards the knees. Maybe just shake your head yes or no, make sure it's nice and relaxed. And normally each pose would be a breath, but as I said, we're going to go through this slowly and build up. So we're going to inhale to halfway lift. So that means straighten the legs. The hands slide up the legs until your spine can go flat. So maybe that means you come all the way up, your hands are on your thighs. Maybe that means you can touch the ground with your back straight, but you want your back straight. So if you can't do that from here, which is what you'll see a lot of yogis do, bring your hands on your legs and come up. Don't compare your practice with somebody else's. Everyone's gonna be at different stages. And then exhale, bend the knees, fold forward again. Release the whole upper back, look backwards towards your knees. Now from here, you're going to bend the knees as much as you can so that you can plant your hands on the ground. Maybe that means you come down a lot. Take one foot back, take the other foot back, come into plank pose. Okay, so this one does take a lot of strength, especially if you're not used to plank. Lower your knees, untuck the toes. I always start with this variation and we always move up to the more advanced ones. So resting here, your shoulders are above your wrists. Now there's a couple different ways that you can come to the ground. That's what we're going to be doing next. You can, keeping the elbows going backwards, not out to the side. You can keep your length in the spine. Start bending the elbows and like a push-up, slowly go all the way down to the ground and come onto your belly. The other option is to keep the elbows bending backwards again, but lower your chin and chest in between your hands so your bum sticks up, and then you kind of snake your way through. So you slide yourself down, belly comes to the ground. Again, take your variation. So next is cobra pose. I always like to start with baby cobra. So hands are next to the chest on the mat. Your chest is up off the ground. Your hips are on the ground. Your belly is on the ground. Elbows are hugging backwards. It's as if you're trying to get your elbows to touch each other. Don't let them come out to the sides here. Next exhale, drop your head downwards. And then push back into your hands so you're back up onto your knees. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. So remember, in your down dog, your hands are shoulder width apart, your feet hips distance, bend the knees, lengthen through the spine. So push your belly back towards your thighs and lift your hips up to the sky. Get that length in your spine. Only when you've got length in your spine can you start to straighten up the legs, but honestly, there's no need to ever straighten the legs. Take a couple breaths here. Make sure that you're breathing. Bend the knees, look towards the top of your hands. You can either take little steps or a big step and come to your forward fold at the top of your mat again. So remember, slight bend of the knees, release the upper body. Your next inhale, lengthen halfway. So straighten the legs, straighten the spine, hands can slide up the legs. Exhale, fold forward. Bend the knees even more, sweep the hands out to the sides as you come up to standing, hands reach up above your head, hands come together, look towards your hands. Exhale, hands to heart center. And then release the hands down by the sides. Okay, so that is a classic sun salutation. Sun salutation actually means saluting the sun. So if you can do this in the mornings, facing the sun, you will feel amazing. We're gonna go through that a tiny bit quicker now. Feet hips distance apart, come to your mountain pose. So arms reach down by the sides, roll the shoulders back, stand nice and tall. Take a big inhale and exhale. And let's begin. Let's inhale, sweep the hands up above your head, look up. Exhale, slight bend of the knees, fold forward, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Remember to bend your knees as much as you can. Plant your hands, take both feet back to plank. Lower the knees, lower down to the mat. So you can chin and chest, or you can come down in that push-up variation. This time, hands next to the chest. Push into your hands, come up a tiny bit higher. So full cobra this time. Pelvis is still on the ground. Elbows are still hugging in towards your waist. Next, exhale, lower your chest back down. Told you we'd go in a tiny bit quicker this time. Push back up onto your knees, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Belly to thighs, hips to sky. Remember to bend those knees. Push into the base of the hands so that you can really push your chest backwards. And the more you go through this sequence, the easier it gets. If you are completely new to yoga, please don't be freaking out. This sequence is repeated so often in yoga, you will get the hang of it. And there's so many different variations. Bend the knees, look towards your hands, big step or little steps, and come to standing at the top of your mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, sweep the hands out and around, come up to standing, hands above your head, look up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Release your hands down. Okay, we're gonna do that one more time. So come to mountain pose at the top of your mat. Let's inhale, sweep the hands up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, plant the hands, take both feet back to plank. This time you can stay up in plank if you'd like. If you'd like to drop your knees and come down. If you're up in plank, you're gonna come halfway, but lean your weight forward before you come down, so that when you come halfway, your elbows are above your wrists. And then come down to the ground, untuck the toes, roll the shoulders back, cobra, pelvis stays on the ground. Exhale your chest back down. Push back up onto your knees, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Belly to thighs, hips to sky. Couple breaths here. This eventually will feel like a resting pose. It might not feel like it right now. It's such a great pose for your body. Bend your knees, look towards the top of your mat. Big step or little steps, come to your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And maybe this time just notice how much closer you are to your toes after all that forward folding. Bend the knees, inhale, sweep the hands out and around, come up to standing. Exhale, hands to heart center. Okay, so we went through that slow at first and then built it up. There are a few different ways that you can do this one. If you would like a longer class, I will put a link up above. But if you are new to yoga and you're new to this series, go through this series first, just so that we can work our way up. Thank you so much for joining me. Please hit the like button because that helps me, but also it's going to help you to keep track on what videos you have done, and I will see you tomorrow for day 4.